Good morning for me, and good day, good evening to everyone else. Solidarity, comrades, and shalom. Selling hope. Now, this is a concept that many class conscious people will understand the idea of selling hope. We mostly associate it with the capitalists, with their illusion of social mobility and saying that if you work hard enough, you can achieve your goals. This sort of thing. And dangling hope in front of people with things like the lottery or, becoming a famous singer or reality star, whatever it may be. But I don't think it's exclusive to just capitalists and reactionaries. I think it happens amongst the left too. And I think specifically the left in the West. So, in what way is the left in the West trying to sell hope? Well, it's through predicting the future. And we all know that predicting the future isn't just foolish, but impossible. Um, so you'll have a lot of organizations and people in the Western left that will use things as a way to sell hope to the working class or the lumpens or the peasantry, whatever it may be. They sell them hope. And it's not through the means that we would see as ideal, like in the Soviet Union, when the Soviets said we got popular support through not selling them hope, but giving them a solution to their problems: peace, land, and bread, appealing to their sensibilities. Yeah, it is ridiculous, Jawad. And welcome, comrade. Um, So you have, and this isn't exclusive to any tendency. This is amongst all tendencies on the left, from the revolutionary tendencies, the reformist tendencies, the ones that believe in states, and those who do not. Um, there's a trend amongst these people, specifically in the West, where they try to win people over by selling them hope. Right? They say, "Look how much better they did it over here." Yes, that's a valid point. We could do the same thing here and have the same result. Well, no, it'd be a very different experience here. Will it be better? Oh, yeah, maybe, most likely. So we hope as communists. But whenever you start telling people, hey, if you side with us, we're going to bring the dictatorship of the proletariat. There's going to be the country is going to be run by councils of worker factor, democratic worker factory. We're going to create a new America, socialism with American characteristics, or we're going to destroy America, uh, and you can help us. And if we do this, our life is going to be better. Both sides of the coin. Well, that's disingenuous. You're selling them hope, because what do we understand about our task and about what revolution is? We understand that it's violent. We understand that it's not a good time. It's actually the worst fucking time. Where people that we know, that we love, will be harmed or could be harmed. Where the people of the world will be set into violence that no one wants. And after this, we're not going to build a paradise for them in a day. That's disingenuous as well. The construction of socialism takes more than the purview of a single lifetime. And that construction doesn't come from the abstractions in our head. It comes from the organic practice of the masses. So when you try to sell them a future that you believe in that doesn't exist in material reality, You're selling them hope. You're selling them your hope. You're selling them something that does not exist. You need to appeal to the masses. What do the majority of the black nation want? What do the indigenous people want? Appeal to their sensibilities. What do the lumpen proletariat, what do the working class of this country want? Appeal to these sensibilities. But you can't tell them what will happen because you do not know. When you tell them our future is going to be this perfect, upright thing, and that it's going to be way less, it's going to be way easier for them than what they're currently living under, that's an illusion. Revolution disrupts everyone's lives, including the people that are fighting for it. It disrupts their peace and comfort. Does it make a better world? We'd like to hope so. For the most part, we say that it does. But when you promise abstractions of things in your head to these people of a better world that you couldn't possibly know how it's going to be organized, you couldn't possibly know that. You can have hope for it yourself, but you cannot possibly present these things to people as some sort of solidified fact. We don't know what the future holds. The future will only be told through the will of mankind, humankind. And all we can do is clarify our position. And if we can clarify it correctly, then the people will organize around our ideas. But you don't know what's going to happen. It's not up to you either. It's not up to the Communist Party. It's not up to the Maoist cadres. That's right, misanthropic and out of coffee. I love that name. I think I know who you are actually from the Obnoxious Anarchist server. Hope seems blind without any generational memory to fight for a future victory. That's true. That's so true. And to put it into more Marxist terms, it's like this generational memory is like this the experience of the social practices, we would say, but a less alienating term, the experience of humankind throughout history. And this experience has taught us what ideas are correct and what ideas are incorrect for moving forward this spiraling tide of history. And what we understand is that it comes from one place and one place only, and it comes from the masses. This revolution will not come from us Marxists in our dialectical ivory towers. It will come from the people at the bottom. They are the driving force of history. We could possibly steer them in the right way if we are able to clarify our position and show them an ideal way to organize. But that is only if we are correct. We don't know that we are correct until the material conditions arise and it begins to happen sourced from the masses themselves. How is that energy going to be channeled? Are we correct in our position? The only thing that can vindicate us is success, is the progress of history. If the productive forces change, if social relations change, if the political power is transferred, have we enfranchised the people? Do they have economic, social, and political power now? Experience is very important. Everyone should read theory too, of course, of course. That's where for me at least, as a Marxist-Leninist, my theory is a tool of clarification. And I believe that that tool of clarification is universal. And it's also a tool for organization. Now, I don't believe that is universal. I just think it is ideal. I don't think that that method of organization is, or the tool of clarification is a tool of predicting the future. It's not what it is. It's a tool for the masses, a vehicle for revolution. We don't know what the future will happen, but the only thing that can define the future are the masses. And the masses and their experiences and their social practice are an unstoppable force. And if you're correct and your clarifications is correct to the conditions that have arisen here, then there will be no debate over what will happen, because I mean, there will be a debate, but there will be no debate about who is correct, because you will be vindicated by your success. My mom always says that knowledge is power. Your mom is correct, Jawad. Um, you know, the more people know, the more dangerous they are to the ruling strata of society. A class conscious worker is the most dangerous thing to the ruling class. A class conscious lumpen is the most dangerous thing to the ruling class, because they have nothing to lose but their chains. And if they have the knowledge of this, then what is more dangerous to the ruling class? Yo, Italian communist, welcome. Great person. I love. Oh, didn't the Euros just start? England versus Italy? I'm a neutral in this, but I will be watching the second part of it after this. If it's on today, um, I know the Brits are pretty excited. But yeah, let's get back to the topic at hand. And so, my thumbnail, for example, this is what happens when people try to predict the future. You know, when these philosophers and artists, people that aren't from the masses, they may be from the masses, but they're individuals. The masses are a collective thing. It's a sum greater. It's a whole greater than the sum. It means more than just the sum of the individuals. And this is why I love the nature of Juche so much, because it goes into how humankind is a social being beyond just the material analysis of this. It's very interesting. But I really believe that, hey, Falcone, that predicting the future of things is just really a detriment to success. And, you have the first original socialists, like the utopian socialists, who were fortune tellers, fortune telling mystics. Oh, hey, comrade. Good to see you. If you want to predict the future, you have to do it based on data, and I'm talking about real data. Yeah, make um, we can make educated hypothesis about the future, but we can't say anything concrete. We can look at how history has gone and analyze it. We can look at the current material conditions and analyze how history has moved through historical materialism and dialectical materialism, and make some educated guesses about what the future may look like. But that's a very generalized thing, and the peculiarities of it are going to be so different in every case, you know. And whenever people try to predict the future, look what comes out in the end, Like, who could have predicted the state the world is in today, and the state that the I mean, there's some people that made broad assumptions, but when it comes to, like, the direction that socialism, or people that advocate for socialism and Marxism, have gone towards, and how things have developed in different continuities and ruptures and such, as the Maoists would like to say. But I think that, yeah, you can predict trends, right? It's the same thing that, in a more empirical uh, level, like with statistics and stuff. And we have our method, the dialectical method, for predicting these trends of humanity. That's sort of where historical materialism comes in with our method of dialectics in the current material conditions, where we can make assumptions uh, based educated guesses, hypotheses off of these things. But yes, the only way it will ever have actual meaning. And the only way that we can actually like the future can never be predicted. It can only be made. The future is made by the masses. And whenever you are in your dialectical ivory towers trying to tell them, this is the way things are going to be here in America. We're going to do the USSA, the United Socialist States of America, or we're going to balkanize the United States. Like, we don't know these things. We can make some assumptions about it, based on the historical conditions of America, but we don't know until it actually happens. And who decides this fate isn't going to be people like us. It's going to be, non-communists. It's going to be non-revolutionaries who decide this fate. And that's what people need to start like understanding, that we really need to get our heads geared towards like what are the masses going to do? What are they going to ask for? What do we have to clarify, and how do we have to organize to win their support? When this thing arises amongst them, when this spark is lit amongst the masses, like there will be either someone a group or an entity that can clarify the position and help organize it, and if they're correct, they will be vindicated by the masses following them. But there will be people that aren't able to do this, and they'll only be vindicated through history. They'll only be vindicated through success and by the support of the masses. I can say I predict. Yeah, you can predict it, but you can't say anything for sure. But certainly, based on like trends and stuff, you can predict that kind of stuff. Uh, this class war is waged with the masses split against each other, while the richest are insulated against the upcoming climate induced by migration, water wars, which will decimate us. Well, they'll only decimate us if we lay complacent. Yeah, exactly. We can all see the hegemony of the United States slipping, and how it has followed the slipping hegemony of empires in history's past. And we can make a safe assumption that yes, the empire will fall. The hegemony will be taken over by others, and the United States and its empire will fall. How exactly it'll happen, when, who knows? The masses hate America. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that they all do. I think the collapse of the USA can be triggered by the collapse of the USD. Yeah, definitely. I mean, right now the yuan is taking over the global market when it comes to, because the yuan's a much more stable currency. Um, it's interesting, this sort of thing, and we can certainly assess these trends. Unless something really crazy happens, we really don't know. Like COVID was something that really just shifted the analysis for many people. Um, and in the United States, for us locally, like the the murder of George Floyd also sparked something that was unexpected and has changed the consciousness of many people in this country. And this is something that I feel like that the Western left has, or the American left has failed miserably. Now, at least the traditional left has failed miserably at clarifying this and helping organize around this. And this is something we need to learn from. But when it comes to COVID on an international scale, we can see that there have been responses that have been superior and that have shown the world that there is a better way than the American system that works. And it's really like just a big blow, like a shot in the kidney to the empire. It's really got them like down on one knee, and now you have these other uh, powers vying for this hegemony, and it's no longer the unipolar world of the '90s, late '80s and '90s. It's now a multipolar world. And one of those poles is led by a Marxist state. That's interesting. Oh yeah, Yellowstone, the super volcano. We like who fucking knows, right? I don't know. I feel like the balkanization of America is something unexpected. Um, Maybe unexpected, but certainly a deep possibility. With the collapse of the U.S. empire, literally, I don't think that the institution of the United States can be preserved in any cohesive sense. But that's just me. I'm not saying that's a fact at anything. That's just a supposition I'm making. I have no clue. Yellowstone isn't going to blow up. Well, I fucking hope so. That's not how I want to go out. Jews understand we have a messianic age. We don't believe in a doomsday, so that's not good. You're talking about BLM as an organization, not BLM as a sentiment amongst Black people as a whole. I don't care about the Black Lives Matter liberal organization. I care about regular, everyday Black people yelling for their lives to matter. That's what I care about. I care about them calling for their liberation. That's the people that I want to show my solidarity for. I don't care about that liberal organization and uh, talking about it like it is what BLM's all about is it's lazy. It's like what reactionaries do when talking about Antifa. It's like Antifa's an evil organization. It's like no, it's not an organization. It's just a fucking tactic, an idea. It's a tactic, an idea. Do you agree with it? I don't know, but like it's like saying BLM is that organization. The CEO of BLM. Like, yeah, I know there is a liberal NGO, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Black liberation movement. Black lives do matter. I don't care about the organization. Of course, the issue is the capitalist system. But what did Lenin say, my friend? And now, what came first in China? National liberation. It was a war of national liberation. That's what it's called. You should know that. The liberation of nations must come first before we can ever dream about building socialism. That's just a fact. Well, yeah, the capitalist keepers are losing their dominance for sure. A new age is dawning. I believe a revolutionary age. This is the early 21st century. It's been a century since just sort of it seems to fit. I don't know. I feel like it's this age, people are more class conscious than ever with the internet able to bring us all together and speak about these ideas, you know, to like even like many of the people who would never have access to this information before have it. It's a very interesting time to say the least. Yes, they are. They're bourgeois democracies. They're the democracies for the ruling class, just not for the people. Yeah, absolutely. The liberation of China was done by CPC, and they did a brilliant job. And 我爱中国，我呃我是我是老外英语老师，我的普通话一般般，你知道，我的普通话一般般。We love our Chinese comrades. Have I read The Hinterlands? No. Sounds interesting. Social democracy, which does not work at all. No, no, it doesn't work at all. It's just another form of the preservation of the capitalist society and buying off, trying to pacify the masses. Yeah, it is. And in the same way that, and in the same way, because how we understand dictatorships isn't really like the liberal life outcome, And in the same way, like we understand a socialist society to be like a dictatorship of one class upon another, that's what we understand the bourgeois society, a dictatorship. And it is democratic in the sense of the word that is democratic amongst the bourgeoisie. It's not so much democratic amongst the masses. And in socialism, it's democratic amongst the masses, just not the bourgeoisie aren't allowed to participate. Hence the dictatorship part. So that's just sort of how I understand dictatorships. And in the liberal sense of the word, it doesn't really mean anything. Oh, what would you like to show us, Tong Chit? What is Yeah, I believe that. I mean, I don't know. I see you on the Red Comrades in China server, but I don't think I've ever actually really talked to you. We, I lived in China for 5 years, so um, when it comes to these, and I went over there with Maoist ideas, and of course I left with Marxist Leninist ones, but the way people look at this sort of Western left stuff, it's just flabbergasting to them. They don't take it seriously. They really don't. Oh yeah, for sure. Liberalism in China is frowned upon. It's very frowned upon. What happened in Swaziland? I know the communists in Swaziland are still calling it Swaziland and not its new name called Eswatini, but I think that's because it was like a monarchic change. I'm not really sure about that, but it has two names now. But I still call it Swaziland because that's what the communists down there call it. Really, you see Jinxing as right wing? I think that you're misconstruing this. That maybe in the past, certainly, but not anymore. I've lived in modern China, and that's not true. One of the most popular talk show hosts in China is a trans woman, Jing Xing, a ballet dancer, and she inspired me to come out as trans. And the Chinese government recognizes her as trans and helped her transition. And it's actually illegal to do hate crimes against LGBT people in China. I was attacked because I'm LGBT. I was attacked by a drunk guy in a bar. Uh, and it was a hate crime, and he was arrested. He's in prison for 2 years for a hate crime. So I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe in your local village is seen as right wing, but LGBTQ stuff um, has nothing to do with socialism. That's a different topic. The Hinterland book, the failure of the left dealing with, yeah, sort of ignoring what they call flyover states, parts of the country that are sort of abandoned, like where Falcone lives in the Appalachians. People are abandoned out there. People out in the deserts of Arizona, indigenous communities, and flyover states. Like there's just reactionaries in these places because they're fucking pissed off they were abandoned by, these centralized, what they see as elites and stuff. The monarchy killed 43 protesters. Fuck the monarchy. It's bad there. The monarchy is fucking bad in Swaziland. Solidarity. I will pray for these protesters. I find myself praying every night for people who died. It just fucking breaks my heart. Oh yeah. I see that. I know what you mean. Um, trying to push like Western liberal values onto China or onto any country outside of the West is just so reactionary. And so it's such a colonization and imperialist mindset. It's used for justification for regime change. I will stand by a socially conservative comrade from the third world that is fighting for their life and dignity more than any fucking uppity fucking social liberal in the West. I agree 100%. Well, that's just a Chinese thing. Like whether it's LGBTQ or not, Chinese people do not like to publicly talk about sex. They're a society that values the privacy of sex. It's very intimate and special. They do not like to share it with anyone, whether it's LGBT or not. So talking openly about sex, whether it's LGBT or something, it bothers Chinese people. Like Jingxing doesn't bother Chinese people. You know why? Because she isn't someone who openly talks about her sex life or her genitals. She's just living her life. Her best life is a fucking badass trans woman, one of the funniest comedians in China. And it's just like whenever you try to push these, it's like it's the same thing in America. Like when you try to push ultra woke shit on indigenous communities and black people, they're like, fuck off. We don't care about your white liberal fucking guilt that you're trying to push onto us, you know? And yeah, I totally get that sentiment. And one thing China is very that they don't like showing their sexuality. They show public intimacy, like friends of the same gender will hold hands or put their arms around each other. But things like kissing and groping and talking about sex and stuff, that's not something you talk about in public. That's a private matter. And that's just the way Chinese people are. And if you don't like it, well, then you're just being a chauvinist towards their culture. Yes, rest in peace to those um, who died in Swaziland, the protesters. Yeah, and I'm a religious person, comrade, and I agree with that sentiment too. Like I'm open sexually when it comes to people that I am sexual with, but I don't like to be public about like what's going on in the bed or my pants or anything like that. I think that it's this idea of pushing these values, these Western Eurocentric values onto these places is not a good idea. It will only alienate the people that, we should be fighting for and we should be standing in solidarity with. Um, and by no means should LGBT people in the West not, or anywhere for that matter, stop advocating for yourself. Of course, every human should advocate for themselves and their dignity and advocate for their community and their dignity. But stay in your lane. You understand what's going on in your home with your people. You don't understand what's going on in China when it comes to this, or what's going on in Iran when it comes to this. You don't understand it. So don't speak on it. That's all. And the same goes for trying to predict the future. You can't do that. You can't promise these people things that have never materialized. It's pure folly. And ultimately, whenever you fail to produce your abstraction you promised, you'll lose any support that you may have gotten. So, be organic. Understand the organic practice of the masses. And if you're a Marxist, you'll take that and you'll be able to clarify the position. And if you're correct, these people stand by your side. So thank you everyone for coming to this one. Had a little bit of interaction in it, which was cool. Thank you, comrades, for coming in and watching. I always appreciate it. Love it when we have a Chinese comrade who comes on and gives their opinion. We value these opinions more because so much on YouTube we hear the opinions of white Guoren like me, uh, uh, or Bairen, white people. Like, yes, I've lived in China for 5 years. I can speak the language. I studied their shit, but the only people who truly know about embed but still good vibes. The only people who can truly know about the what's going on are the people who are experiencing it for their every day of their lives, who have experienced it, and it's their people, their communities. I got a glimpse into their communities. I was invited into these communities. Oh, amazing. I'm excited. On Red Comrades in China, amazing. Yeah, y'all go check them out. They have a lot of good stuff on there. Oh, and they're going to be putting out a lot more good stuff. It takes a lot of time because of the quality of what they're trying to do is at a very high standard. It's not just a YouTube thing, it's to be able to present to the English speaking world in general, you know, clearing up misconceptions for people so they can make, educated analysis of China without it being fucked up with disinformation. And so really go check out these people, because people say, oh, Red Conference of China is just two white people. No, it's a couple of foreigners who live in China but are getting all of their information from Chinese people, and specifically Chinese Marxists, Marxist-Leninists, Chinese Communist Party members, Chinese Youth League members, people who've lived, who it's their home. And I got a very brief glimpse into this culture, whatever 5 years can give you. And I was welcomed into these communities with warm, open arms, with friendliness I would have never expected. And they taught me so much about what it means to them to be Chinese, and what their society is, and what they have built, and why they're proud of it, and why they call it what they call it, and why they do what they do. And these people are all individuals. They all have their own reasoning, but they're very, very, very aware of what's going on. And they have a deep, deep love for their culture and understanding it. And just getting a glimpse into that sort of it humbles you. It makes you say, wow, I really don't know what the fuck is going on. I've studied this shit for years. 7 years I've been studying it, and 5 of those I was in China. And it's just like scratching the surface. This culture is millennia old, and it's just developed so uniquely and separately from anything that we can understand as Westerners. And to even we're all innately as Westerners raised in this Western way of thinking. And when you go to these places and they don't have the same way of thinking, it's kind of like a slap in the face, but not in like a painful way, but like in a wake-up call, like a cold splash of water. Like, what you assumed about these people is wrong, and you're never really going to understand them unless you are one of them. And I think that that's what's important for a lot of people to see. Oh, boost, 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 boost. Stupid face, no. 你是好可爱，好可爱，你就漂亮，漂亮。No, I haven't. But it sounds interesting, by Viktor Frankl. Man Searching for Meaning. That sounds very interesting. I'll have to check it out. Oh, I mean, but you have an understanding of China, right? Your mindset is Chinese. Um, from the very way that food is shared on a table to great philosophical concepts about organizing society, and like these things are just so disparate from the West. They're so different, and we're becoming closer in a world where we can access more information. But I still feel like that many in the West are analyzing this from the lens of a Westerner. Of course they would. I know I have. But finally having a Chinese person say to you, like, with no ifs, ands, or buts, that you're full of shit about something, and that you need to listen to what the people around, the people here have to say, then you have to fucking maybe shut up and listen and drop your hubris for a minute. 我知道，我知道，你就漂亮。I know. I'm just being a shit heel. I know it's girlish. Pyongyang isn't necessarily. It is girlish. It is like a pretty, but it's not necessarily gender tied like something like menu. Like Mei Nu is specifically tied to gender, but Piaoliang isn't. Yeah, I don't blame you. I'm sick of I'm sick of our people too. It's exhausting, like being around people who make large assumptions about this place that I deeply love, my second home. I feel like I was welcomed so warmly by the people and considered a part of the community, and I just love it so much, and I was taught so much, and to hear people just say things that are objectively not true without any sort of investigation is frustrating, and I'm tired of it. I really am. I really am. But yeah, this stream went longer than I thought it would. I have to get going, comrades. But thank you so much for coming in and watching. Be wary of the future. Shalom. Um, and solidarity forever. Don't give up the ship.